guys. Welcome you all to the Insights into Books podcast. Let's start today's discussion. Today, we're plunging into a really transformative philosophy. We're going to be distilling some pretty profound lessons, drawing heavily from the ideas in The Courage to be Disliked. Consider this maybe like a shortcut, a way to get your head around unlocking genuine happiness and, well, personal freedom. And be prepared because these ideas really challenge a lot of what you might think you know about your past, definitely about your relationships, and even your own potential. This isn't just some bestseller, though it has sold millions globally. It's presented in a really unique way.
Oh yeah, the format's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's structured as a dialogue.
Exactly. A series of really captivating conversations between a philosopher figure and this young, questioning guy.
Pulls you right in, makes you feel like you're there figuring things out with them.
And they unpack some truly paradigm-shifting stuff, ideas for lasting happiness, for liberating your true self. It's quite something.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is the foundation it's all built on. It's rooted in the psychological theories of Alfred Adler.
Right, Adler. Now, many people might know Freud, maybe Jung.
Sure, the big names. Adler was actually their contemporary, a world-renowned philosopher, psychiatrist. But he offered a really distinct approach, often quite different from Freud, for example.
How so? Different in what way?
Well, where Freud might focus a lot on, say, primitive drives or see behavior as quite determined by the past, Adler took a much more empowering stance. It's really centered on personal agency, your power to choose, and crucially on social connection.
Social connection.
Yes, Adlerian psychology, sometimes called individual psychology, which is a bit misleading because it's so social. It doesn't see us as just isolated individuals. It puts a huge emphasis on understanding you within your social context, fundamentally tangled up with your communities, your relationships.
Okay, so we're not just islands.
Not at all. And a core belief, really the bedrock, is that you possess the inherent power to change your life. You're not just a product of your past or your environment.
You have agency.
Exactly. The ability to choose, to direct your own path. So, as we get into this deep dive, you should really prepare to explore ideas that honestly challenge a lot of conventional thinking.
About our past, definitely.
Our relationships, how we actually go about pursuing happiness. It promises to be quite a journey, I think. A journey of self-discovery, perhaps.
That's a powerful setup. And it leads us straight into one of the most, provocative claims. One that really makes you stop and think. It's this idea, your future is not determined by your past.
That one always gets a reaction.
It really does, because for so many of us, that goes against this almost deep-seated understanding of how trauma works, how past experiences shape us, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Our sort of common wisdom, which is often quite influenced by, say, traditional Freudian thinking, leans heavily on what's called an etiological view.
Etiological, meaning?
Yeah, meaning focused on the cause. Think of it like Freud always asking, what caused this?
Yeah.
Etiology always looks backward.
Okay.
It suggests your current behaviors, your anxieties, maybe your unhappiness. They're seen as direct results of things that happened before. Childhood stuff, specific traumas, past events.
Like a chain reaction, cause and effect.
Precisely. And it feels very logical to many people, that feeling of, I am this way because of what happened to me.
Yeah, that resonates. It feels intuitive.
It does. That Freudian etiological view is fundamentally backward-looking. It essentially argues that your current self is kind of irrevocably shaped by your early life. It creates a sense of determinism.
Like you're stuck with the hand you were dealt.
Exactly. It often implies a kind of resignation, doesn't it? Well, I am who I am, can't do much about it, my past defined me.
Right.
But Adler's perspective, which is teleological, offers a really radical reframing.
Teleological. Okay, what's the focus there?
Think of it as Adler asking, what purpose does this serve now? It's focused on your present goals, your why in this moment.
Purpose now, not cause then.
Exactly. And this is absolutely crucial. Adlerian psychology doesn't deny that painful things happen. It doesn't deny abuse or calamity or difficult circumstances exist or affect you.
Okay, that's important.
Very important. What it asserts, though, is that you suffer not necessarily from the shock of those experiences themselves, but from the meaning you assign to them right now.
The meaning we assign.
Yes, that's the critical distinction. It means your interpretations are self-determining. You're shaping the narrative. And because of that, you are at any moment completely free to choose your present goals and your future direction, regardless of what's happened before.
So personality isn't fixed by the past.
According to Adler, no. Your personality, your disposition, they're seen as plastic. They can change if you choose, even despite your environment. The past might explain things, sure, it provides context, but your present purpose dictates your actions now. You were always choosing your why in the present moment.
Wow, that's unsettling and also incredibly liberating somehow, both at once.
It is, isn't it? It really shifts the locus of control back to you right now.
This point about, say, fear being manufactured for a purpose,
Yeah.
that really flips the script on how we usually think about emotions.
It does. We tend to see emotions as passive responses to external events. Adler suggests they could be active tools we use, sometimes unconsciously, to achieve a goal.
Can you give us some more concrete examples? Because purpose over cause still feels a bit abstract. How does this teleological view actually play out?
Absolutely. The source material offers some really compelling illustrations. Let's take the example of the aspiring author, the one who complains they just can't get any writing done.
Ah, yes, the no time excuse. We've all been there.
Right. They say, I don't have time, my job's too demanding, I'm too tired. The etiological view, the cause-focused view, might say, okay, they need better time management, more discipline, maybe just more coffee.
Practical solutions to a practical problem.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
But through a teleological lens, Adler suggests looking for the purpose. What goal does not writing achieve for this person?
A goal. What goal could not writing possibly achieve?
Perhaps the goal is to avoid failure, or rather to preserve the possibility of success.
Preserve the possibility. How does that work?
By never finishing the novel, by never putting it out there, they never risk criticism, they never risk rejection, they never risk finding out it's maybe just an inferior piece of writing, as the philosopher puts it.
Ah, okay, so the purpose is self-protection.
Exactly. Their goal is to avoid exposure, to protect their fragile ego. And the perceived lack of time or energy or whatever excuse, that becomes the convenient means to achieve that goal. It's a self-serving reason masquerading as an external obstacle.
Wow, that's quite a different way of looking at procrastination.
Isn't it? Another example, perhaps more confronting, is someone experiencing severe anxiety. Let's say someone unable to leave their house for years, maybe due to social phobia.
Okay, agoraphobia or something similar.
Right. A traditional, maybe Freudian view might look for a root cause in the past, a specific trauma, maybe parental issues, an early embarrassing event.
Trying to find the origin point.
Correct. Adler, however, using teleology, would ask, what purpose does staying inside serve now? He might argue that the individual has, perhaps quite unconsciously, created a goal not to leave the house.
A goal not to leave.
Yes. And they are then manufacturing the feelings of fear and anxiety as the means to achieve that goal.
Manufacturing anxiety, that sounds counterintuitive. Why would anyone choose anxiety?
It's not about choosing the feeling for its own sake. The symptoms, the panic, the dread, they serve a purpose. Perhaps the purpose is to avoid certain life tasks they find daunting. Social interactions, responsibilities, maybe the perceived dangers of the outside world.
So the anxiety is the reason they can give themselves and others for not facing those things.
Rightfully. The purpose isn't to be sick. The purpose is to avoid something challenging. And the fear becomes the tool that allows them to maintain that avoidance, often without having to consciously admit it's a choice they're making.
That perspective is incredibly empowering because it implies change is possible right now.
That's the core of it. It suggests that at any given moment, you have the power to choose your destiny. How? Through the actions you take now. Your life isn't something passively received. It's something you actively choose every single day.
Okay, but this is where it gets really challenging, I think, because I know for many people, especially those who've faced really profound hardship, severe trauma, the idea that trauma doesn't exist in the Adlerian sense or that you somehow choose your suffering, that can sound incredibly jarring, maybe even invalidating or potentially harmful. It feels like it risks oversimplifying incredibly complex issues. What about the real neurological impacts of trauma? Isn't there a danger of victim blaming here? I can just hear listeners thinking, but my pain is real. I didn't choose this.
That is such a critical point, and it's absolutely where nuance is essential. Let's be really clear. Adlerian philosophy is not denying that terrible, painful events occur. It's not denying the reality of abuse or calamity or incredibly difficult circumstances.
Okay.
It's not saying your suffering isn't real or didn't happen. What it is asserting, though, is your agency in the aftermath. The focus shifts.
Agency in the aftermath, meaning?
Meaning it emphasizes that what truly shapes your life moving forward isn't solely what happened to you, but the meaning you assign to those events now. And crucially, how you react to what happens, your responsibility, if you will.
So the focus is on the interpretation and the reaction, not dismissing the event itself.
Exactly. Adler had this famous saying, The important thing is not what one is born with, but what use one makes of that equipment.
What use one makes of that equipment.
Yeah. It's about focusing on what you can do right now, with what you have, the hand you've been dealt, the experiences you've had, rather than feeling entirely confined and defined by what happened to you in the past.
Okay, can you elaborate on that distinction? How does that play out?
Well, think about it. Two people can go through strikingly similar hardships, really tough times, yet they might end up with entirely different outcomes, different life paths, different levels of happiness or function.
True, we see that.
Adler would suggest that difference often lies in their interpretation of those events and the lifestyle they choose in response.
Lifestyle. You mean like their house or car?
Huh. No, not in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Adler used lifestyle much more broadly. Think of it as your fundamental worldview, your ingrained patterns of thought, your characteristic ways of behaving and interacting with the world, your personal map of reality.
Okay, like your core orientation to life.
Exactly. And the crucial point is that this lifestyle, this orientation, is something Adler believed is chosen. Maybe not consciously chosen initially, often formed in early childhood, but chosen nonetheless.
Chosen, and therefore changeable.
And therefore, critically, it can be rechosen at any point. Healing from trauma, for instance, while it absolutely often requires immense effort and frequently professional support,
Definitely.
ultimately involves, from this perspective, redefining the narrative you hold about those events.
Yeah.
It involves constructing a new purpose for yourself moving forward, choosing a different lifestyle.
So it's not about pretending the past didn't happen, but about changing its meaning for your present and future.
Precisely. The philosophy pushes you to see that unhappiness isn't usually due to a lack of competence or capability. Adlerian thought is often described as a psychology of courage.
Courage.
Yes, the idea is that maybe unhappiness stems from a lack of the courage to be happy, the courage to actually change that chosen lifestyle, to step into the discomfort that always accompanies growth, and to actively redefine your purpose. It's not saying just be strong. It's more like be brave enough to rewrite your story's meaning.
That reframing is really profound. Okay, so if we accept this idea that our actions are driven by present goals, not past causes, that's step one towards freedom, how does this radical self-determination then play out in our connections with other people?
Oh, well, that's where it gets even more interesting, perhaps.
Because Adler throws another equally bold and maybe initially bewildering idea into the mix, doesn't he? This claim that all problems are interpersonal relationship problems.
That's the big one.
It sounds so extreme. It makes it seem like even totally personal worries, self-doubt, anxiety when I'm alone, feeling blue are somehow tied to other people. Like you can't even have a problem in isolation.
It does sound extreme at first glance, definitely.
So why? Why would unhappiness always be about our relationships with others? How does that actually work?
Okay, so to understand this, you have to grasp Adler's foundational view of human nature. He believed that all human beings have these two primary, really deep-seated objectives in life. Innate drives, almost.
Which are?
To belong and to feel significant.
Well, yeah, belonging and significance.
Now, think about it. Where can you belong? Where can you feel significant?
With other people, in a group.
Through what you do for others. Exactly. These objectives only exist, they can only be fulfilled within a social context. Therefore, it logically follows, for Adler, that all the life tasks we undertake to try and fulfill these needs, tasks related to work, love, friendship, are inherently interpersonal.
Because they involve others.
They have to. You strive to belong to a community, you seek significance in the eyes of others, or maybe through your contribution to others. So any failure to successfully navigate these life tasks, which is what Adler saw as the root of unhappiness, must therefore be rooted in our social context. You're either failing in relation to others, or you perceive a failing in relation to others. You are fundamentally a social creature.
Okay, I see the logic, but what about something like self-dislike? That feels intensely personal.
Let's unpack that. According to Adler, feelings of inferiority or intense self-dislike are often actually quite elaborate excuses, pretexts we craft, maybe unconsciously.
Excuses for what?
Excuses to avoid taking on challenging life tasks, particularly those involving social risk.
Like what?
Like applying for that job you want, giving that presentation, asking someone. You might tell yourself, oh, I'm too stupid, or I'm not good enough, or I'm too awkward.
Right, the negative self-talk.
But the underlying purpose, teleologically speaking, isn't necessarily a true lack of ability. It's often a deep-seated fear of being seen failing, of being judged by others.
So the fear is social, even if the feeling seems internal.
Precisely. You're worried about what other people will think, how you'll measure up, how you'll compare. Adler made a really useful distinction here between objective inferiorities and subjective ones.
Objective versus subjective inferiority.
Yeah. Objective ones are measurable facts.
Yep.
Maybe you're shorter than average, maybe you have less money than someone else, maybe a physical limitation. These are real, observable differences.
Okay.
Subjective inferiorities, however, are entirely made up in your mind. They are purely your interpretation of yourself in comparison to others. I'm not smart enough, I'm not attractive enough, I'm not witty enough.
Feelings, not facts.
Exactly. And Adler argued that only the objective ones might matter, and even then, only if they genuinely practically hinder a goal you have chosen, the subjective ones. He basically says you can choose to dismiss them entirely.
Yeah.
Because they aren't real external constraints. They are just your story about yourself.
Choose to dismiss them. Easier said than done, surely.
Oh, absolutely. It takes courage. But the point is, the power resides in your interpretation, not in some objective not enoughness.
That makes a powerful kind of sense. It's like we build this whole narrative around our perceived flaws, often based on how we imagine others see them. Our inner critic is always playing to our imagined audience.
That's a great way to put it. And think about loneliness, too. For Adler, loneliness isn't just about being physically by yourself. You can be alone and perfectly content, right? Enjoying solitude. Real loneliness, in this view, is that profound feeling of exclusion, of being cut off from a community, from a group, a sense of being outcast, isolated from others, which again reinforces the idea that even our deepest personal feelings are fundamentally tied into our social fabric, our need to belong.
Okay. And you mentioned excuses earlier. Adler had a term for that too, right?
Yes, the life lie. It's a powerful concept.
Mm-hmm.
It refers to the excuses, the pretexts, the often elaborate fictions we construct for ourselves.
To do what?
To avoid facing up to challenging interpersonal life tasks. To avoid the discomfort of growth, vulnerability, of potential failure in the social arena.
So it's the story we tell ourselves to stay stuck.
Exactly. It's choosing the familiar comfort of our perceived problem, I can't because, over the courage required to actually make a change and risk something. It's the comforting, well-worn narrative we invent to justify our inaction, rather than confronting the scary but ultimately more fulfilling task of truly living.
The life lie. That's something to really reflect on. But hang on, aren't there sometimes genuinely external circumstances that stop us? Is Adler saying every barrier is just a self-imposed lie?
That's a fair question. It's not necessarily saying every barrier is a lie, but that our reaction to the barrier and the meaning we give it often involves a choice that might serve a hidden purpose.
Okay. But I still have to push back on the universality of all problems are interpersonal. What about things that seem purely individual or external?
Why?
Like, what if you're completely alone on a desert island and you break your leg? How is that interpersonal? Or you develop a serious health condition totally in isolation. Where are the others in that problem?
Right. Or natural disasters, acts of God. These seem external, non-social forces.
Exactly. They don't seem rooted in human relationships at all.
Those are excellent points and very common challenges. From an Adlerian perspective, even in what looks like total isolation, our suffering and worries are often still profoundly socially informed.
How so on a desert island?
Okay, desert island, broken leg. The panic, the suffering you feel. It isn't just about the physical pain. It's massively compounded by your learned understanding of what injury means, concepts of health, illness, vulnerability ideas that are themselves largely social constructs learned from others.
Okay.
Your fear might stem from the perceived lack of social support, the absence of others who could help, or maybe the implications of being unable to fend for yourself, to contribute even just to your own survival, which taps into that need for significance. These are all social dimensions, even when others aren't physically present.
So our internal landscape is shaped by society even when we're alone.
Absolutely. And in a normal societal context, a health issue immediately brings in a whole web of interpersonal factors. Insurance systems, access to doctors and hospitals, societal definitions of normal health versus sickness or disability, expectations about care. These are all structures and meanings created by people for people.
Right. It's never truly isolated.
The argument is essentially that you don't live in a purely objective world. You live in a subjective world, a world that you yourself give meaning to. And your perception of any problem is deeply influenced by this subjective reality, which is inherently shaped by comparison with others, by societal norms, by your relationships.
Like the inferiority feelings we talked about.
Exactly. Those feelings don't exist in a vacuum. They arise from comparing yourself to others or to some societal ideal of what you should be. Even when you strive for self-improvement, what Adler called the pursuit of superiority, which can be healthy.
Healthy superiority.
Yeah, in its healthy form, it's about striving to be better than your past self, comparing your current self to your ideal self. Personal growth, that's positive.
Okay.
But it becomes unhealthy when it twists into constant competition. When you start viewing others as rivals, as obstacles to overcome, as people you need to be better than.
The keeping up with the Joneses mentality.
Precisely. If you're constantly trying to win against others, you're locked in an interpersonal struggle, even if it's only happening inside your own head. And that, Adler argues, is a guaranteed path to unhappiness. Because in that competitive mindset, there's no real peace. You're either anxious about winning, anxious about maintaining your win, or anxious about losing.
Always looking over your shoulder?
Always.
Oh.
It prevents genuine connection and breeds insecurity.
Okay, that clarifies how deeply tangled our lives are with others, even when it doesn't seem obvious. It really is a different lens. So if our problems are so rooted in these interpersonal dynamics, how on earth do we navigate them without getting totally overwhelmed? Overwhelmed by everyone else's opinions, their expectations, their dramas.
Now we get to one of the most practical and frankly life-changing tools offered.
Which is?
The concept of the separation of tasks.
Separation of tasks. Okay, sounds intriguing. What's the core idea? How can it help us avoid intrusion and maybe just a lot of unnecessary stress?
It's a cornerstone, really. And the core idea is simple, yet quite revolutionary when you apply it. You must learn to clearly distinguish between what is your task, your responsibility, your choice, your consequence, and what is someone else's task.
My task versus their task.
Exactly. And then, crucially, you need to focus only on what you can actually control, which is your task. The philosophy argues that basically all interpersonal relationship troubles stem from one of two things. Either you intruding on other people's tasks, or you allowing others to intrude on yours.
Intrusion, like meddling.
Like meddling, interfering, trying to control things that aren't yours to control, or worrying excessively about things that are ultimately up to someone else. Getting this right can dramatically change your interactions, fostering both respect and independence.
Okay, how do you tell whose task is whose? Is there a simple test?
There is a simple, elegant test suggested. Ask yourself, who ultimately receives the result brought about by the choice that is made? Who bears the final consequence?
Who gets the result? Okay, give me an example.
The classic one used is about a child studying. Whose task is it for the child to study or not study?
Well, the child's ultimately. They're the one who passes or fails, learns or doesn't learn.
Precisely. The child receives the direct result. So studying is unequivocally their task. Now, what about parental nagging, scolding, maybe even doing the homework for the child?
Oh, that feels like intrusion.
It is. While the parent might frame it as, I'm doing this for your own good, teleologically speaking, that interference is often actually the parent's task. It's driven by their goals.
Like what kind of goals?
Maybe concerned about how the child's grades reflect on them in society. Maybe a desire to appear a good parent. Maybe a need for control over the child's life or future outcomes. The child usually senses this underlying motive, this deception that the parent is trying to fulfill their own needs through the child.
And that's why kids often rebel against the nagging. They feel controlled.
Exactly. They resist the intrusion into their task. It breeds resentment, not responsibility.
So does this mean parents should just do nothing? Let the kid fail? That sounds harsh.
No, not at all do nothing. Separation of tasks isn't about abandonment. Parents absolutely can and probably should offer support, assistance, encouragement. They can create an environment that's good for studying. They can offer help when asked. They can provide resources, share their own experiences, communicate trust in the child's ability.
But they shouldn't do the tasks for the child.
Correct. Nor should they impose their will, their expectations, their anxieties about the outcome onto the child's journey. The child has to choose to make studying their own task. They need to think about what they want to do, take ownership of their choices and their learning. That's how responsibility develops.
Okay, that makes sense for parenting. How does this apply more broadly?
It applies everywhere. Think about it. Is it your task to make everyone like you?
No, probably not. You can't control how others feel.
Exactly. Their liking or disliking you is their task, based on their values, perceptions, maybe their mood that day. Your task is to choose how you behave authentically.
What about trying to stop someone from being upset by a choice you make?
Their emotional reaction is their task. Your task is to make the choice that aligns with your principles, while still being considerate, perhaps, but not taking responsibility for their feelings.
Trying to change someone else's mind. Their beliefs.
Again, their beliefs are their task. Your task is to express your own views respectfully, if you choose, but you can't force them to agree. Trying to control these things is intruding on their tasks, and it's exhausting and futile.
It really is exhausting. This ties into seeking approval too, doesn't it?
Hugely. The philosophy talked about the desire for recognition. If your life revolves around satisfying others' expectations, trying to win their approval, you become fundamentally unfree.
Unfree how?
You're constantly twisting yourself into pretzels, trying to be who you think they want you to be. You lose touch with your true self, your authentic desires. It leads to a miserable, unfulfilled life because you're living for an external audience, not for yourself.
Yeah, I can see that.
True freedom, Adler argues, comes from liberating yourself from this constant need for recognition. Your internal motivation has to be key. Because if you're only doing something for external praise, what happens when that praise stops?
Your motivation disappears.
Right. You weren't doing it for an intrinsic reason to begin with. Think about work. If your main goal is just to please the boss or get accolades, that job becomes incredibly stressful. You're always worried about their judgment, suppressing your real ideas, maybe even your passion, just to fit in or get that validation.
Okay, conceptually, this separation of tasks sounds brilliant. Simple, logical, but putting it into practice, that feels really hard sometimes.
It definitely takes practice. It's countercultural in many ways.
We're so conditioned to care what people think, especially people close to us or colleagues, bosses. We want to be liked. We want to fit in. How do we actually do this separation without coming across as, I don't know, cold, uncaring, aloof, or just plain selfish? It feels like it could push people away.
That's a really important practical point and a common misunderstanding. Separation of tasks is absolutely not about building walls or becoming uncaring or isolated. In fact, when done right, it's the opposite.
How so?
It's about establishing healthy boundaries and recognizing individual responsibility. And paradoxically, that often leads to healthier, more authentic, and ultimately deeper connections, not shallower ones.
Healthier boundaries leading to deeper connections. Explain that.
Because it allows you to offer genuine support and empathy without getting entangled in unhealthy ways. You're not enabling negative behavior, you're not trying to fix people, and you're not taking on emotional burdens that aren't actually yours to carry.
Okay, example.
Say a friend or loved one is really struggling with a problem, maybe making poor choices. Your task, if you choose, is to offer support, to listen non-judgmentally, to be present, maybe offer resources or perspectives if appropriate.
Right, that sounds like being a good friend.
It is, but their task is to choose whether or not to act on that support, to accept the help, and ultimately to solve their own problem. You cannot do it for them. And crucially, you are not responsible for their choice to accept or reject your help, or for the outcome of their choices. Separating tasks allows you to support them without rescuing them or getting drained by feeling responsible for their life.
So you can care deeply, offer help, but detach from the outcome.
Precisely. You detach from controlling their task. How does this apply at work? It means focusing your energy where it has leverage on what you can control.
Like my effort, my attitude.
Your effort, the quality of your work, your professional development, your responses, your attitude, focus there rather than burning valuable mental energy and getting stressed about things you can't control. Market fluctuations cutting into sales, a colleague's personal drama affecting their mood, your boss's subjective opinion or their bad day. You can still choose to do excellent work even if your boss isn't appreciative. Using their lack of appreciation as an excuse to slack off is actually you shirking your task of doing good work.
Ah, interesting. Taking responsibility for my side of the street, regardless.
Exactly. And this ties directly back to that core message, the courage to be disliked. It's about living authentically, guided by your own values and principles, even when that means facing criticism, disapproval, or, yes, even being disliked by some people. It's choosing personal integrity over the impossible quest for universal external validation.
It liberates you from that huge burden of trying to manage everyone else's opinions and feelings about you.
It really does. It's incredibly freeing.
Okay, that's a powerful shift. Moving from constantly reacting to others to proactively choosing based on your own tasks and values. But here's another potential tension. If we're all busy separating tasks, having the courage to be disliked, not chasing external validation, doesn't that risk leading to a kind of extreme individualism? Maybe even loneliness?
That's a very insightful question.
The title itself, The Courage to be Disliked, kind of implies pushing people away, doesn't it? Yet the philosophy also strongly emphasizes things like living in harmony with each other and finding deep fulfillment through community connection. How do these seemingly opposite ideas actually fit together?
This is where Adler's concept of horizontal relationships becomes absolutely fundamental. It's the key to fostering genuine social interest, that feeling of connection and contribution, rather than ending up isolated,
Horizontal relationships,
as opposed to vertical relationships. Adler draws a sharp contrast. Vertical relationships are hierarchical. They're based on dynamics of superior-inferior, stronger-weaker, winner-loser. Think of traditional power structures, or just attitudes where someone feels above or below someone else.
Okay, and horizontal.
Horizontal relationships are those among equals, where you view others fundamentally as comrades traveling alongside you, even if your roles or abilities differ. It's a relationship based on mutual respect and shared humanity.
Comrades. Interesting word choice.
Isn't it? The philosophy argues that insecurity and, crucially, that competitive mindset we talked about earlier are what destroy our ability to form healthy horizontal relationships.
How does competition prevent it?
If you're constantly comparing yourself to others, if you see their success as somehow diminishing yours, if you're always trying to win against them, you inadvertently create this perpetual state of conflict, victory or defeat. In that mindset, everyone around you becomes, consciously or unconsciously, a potential rival, an enemy even.
That sounds exhausting and lonely.
Terribly so. It's incredibly destructive to mental well-being and genuine connection. The book even calls it the terror of competition.
Terror of competition.
Yeah, think about it. Even the supposed winners in a highly competitive environment are rarely at peace. They're constantly anxious about maintaining their top spot, terrified of slipping, terrified of becoming a loser. It's an endless, stressful race that makes true camaraderie impossible.
So the alternative is?
The alternative is consciously choosing to view others as comrades, as people with their own unique journeys, struggles, strengths, but ultimately moving in the same human direction as you. Adopting this attitude naturally fosters a willingness to help, to collaborate, to genuinely feel happy for others' successes without feeling personally threatened or diminished by them.
Even in places with clear hierarchies like work.
Yes. Obviously, formal positions of authority exist. That's reality. But the attitude can still be horizontal. You can treat colleagues, subordinates, even superiors as equals in fundamental human worth. Value their ideas regardless of rank. Trust them as capable individuals. It's about fostering respect over rank, seeing the person behind the title.
Shifting that internal perception from rivals to allies, from threats to fellow travelers, that requires a big internal shift.
It really does. It's profound.
Okay, so if we manage this shift, if we let go of the need for external recognition, stop the constant competition, how do we find our self-worth? How do we get that deep sense of belonging, that significance Adler talked about? Where does this community feeling actually come from? What is it made of?
That's the payoff, really. The book explains that this community feeling, this sense of belonging, of being part of something larger, isn't something you're just born with or something passively given to you.
You have to earn it or build it.
You acquire it through your own efforts, specifically by actively contributing to something larger than your own immediate self-interest. By recognizing yourself as an indispensable part of a bigger whole, a web of connections.
Contribution is key.
Absolutely. It's in that sense of contributing, of being useful, that genuine, lasting happiness truly resides, according to this view, because it naturally diminishes your craving for external praise or recognition. Your worth starts coming from within, from your own perception of your usefulness, your connection, your participation.
So what does this community feeling look like? What are its components?
Adler outlines 3 essential qualities, or pillars if you like, that constitute a strong community feeling.
Okay, number 1.
First is self-acceptance, and this is crucial. It means truly acknowledging and embracing yourself as you are, including your vulnerabilities, your shortcomings, your flaws, your incapacities.
Accepting the not-so-perfect parts.
Exactly. It's different from just positive self-affirmation, like chanting, "I am great." Self-acceptance is deeper. It's about understanding and having compassion for your whole self, warts and all, and accepting that you are fundamentally okay, fundamentally enough, right here, right now. It's the courage to be imperfect. Without this, you'll always be seeking external validation to prop up your sense of worth.
Makes sense. What's the second pillar?
The second is confidence in others. And again, this is specific. It goes beyond just conditional trust, like, I trust you if you prove yourself reliable.
Okay.
Adler's concept of confidence here means believing unconditionally in people at a baseline level, without needing stacks of objective proof or setting conditions they have to meet first.
Believing unconditionally, that sounds risky. People can let you down.
Of course they can. It's not about being naive or ignoring problematic behavior. It's about holding a fundamental belief in others as your comrades, seeing them as inherently capable and generally oriented towards cooperation, even if they sometimes stumble or make mistakes. It's about starting from a place of assuming goodwill.
Why is that so important?
Because without this basic confidence in others, you remain fundamentally guarded. You stay locked in that competitive, suspicious mindset. You can't form deep, trusting connections. You remain isolated, always looking for threats instead of allies. This unconditional confidence is vital for moving away from competition towards genuine community.
Okay, self-acceptance, confidence in others, and the third.
And third, perhaps the linchpin, is contribution to others. This is the active part. It's the feeling of being useful, of giving service, of making a difference to others or to the community you belong to.
Does it have to be a big, visible contribution?
Not at all. It can be grand and visible or small and unseen. The scale doesn't matter as much as the internal feeling of contribution. This is where genuine happiness is said to reside.
Why contribution specifically?
Because it shifts your focus dramatically. It moves you from self-interest, what can I get, to social interest, what can I give? When you genuinely feel useful to someone or something beyond yourself, your sense of self-worth naturally inflates from within. Your need for external praise just fades in significance.
Because the feeling of contribution is its own reward.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The philosophy even suggests reframing labor, your job, not just as a way to earn money or status, but primarily as a way to contribute to others, to society. That sense of contribution reinforces your value, your place in the human tapestry, just by engaging and participating.
That's a very different perspective on work. Okay, one more thing that seems tied to relationships and hierarchy. Praise and rebuke. They're everywhere. We use them constantly as motivators. Parenting, schoolwork, good job, or that was wrong. How does this philosophy view praise and rebuke, especially if they create those vertical relationships you mentioned?
This is another area where the ideas really challenge our ingrained habits.
Yeah.
Adlerian psychology views both praise and rebuke as fundamentally problematic.
Both, even praise.
Yes, both. Because ultimately they're seen as forms of manipulation, and crucially, they inherently create and reinforce those vertical hierarchical relationships.
How does praise do that? It feels positive.
Think about the dynamic. When you praise someone, good job, you are implicitly placing yourself in a position of judgment. You are the evaluator, deeming their performance good. It implies you are superior, capable of assessing them, like an adult praising a child or an owner praising a pet. They become dependent on your judgment for validation.
Never thought of it that way. And rebuke.
Rebuke is the flip side of the same coin. You're judging them as bad or wrong, again from that assumed position of authority or superiority. Both actions foster dependency on external judgment. The person being praised or rebuked starts acting to satisfy the expectations of the person doing the judging, rather than acting from their own internal motivation or a genuine desire to contribute well.
They're working for the carrot or trying to avoid the stick, not for the sake of the task itself.
Exactly. Conditions people to seek external approval or fear external disapproval, rather than developing intrinsic motivation and self-direction.
So, if not praise or rebuke, what's the alternative? How do you guide or encourage positive behavior?
The alternative promoted is encouragement.
Encouragement. How is that different?
Encouragement is fundamentally different because it's not about judgment. It's about helping others connect with their own courage to face life tasks. It's about fostering their self-confidence and positive outlook without creating that power dynamic.
Can you give an example? Instead of good job, what would encouragement sound like?
It might sound like, I really appreciate your effort on this, or thank you, that was helpful, or I see you're working hard on this, I believe you can figure it out, or simply expressing gratitude for their contribution. It focuses on the effort, the process, the person's capability, or the contribution itself, rather than delivering a verdict from on high.
So it affirms their worth and capability as an equal.
Precisely. It shifts the focus from external approval, am I good enough in your eyes, to internal growth, resilience, and that sense of belonging as an equal member of the community. Encouragement helps people feel they are contributing and are valued as they are, rather than feeling managed or controlled. It cultivates that intrinsic drive, which is far more sustainable, empowering, and ultimately leads to better outcomes in relationships.
Okay, this has been an incredible journey through these core ideas. It feels like we're circling back now, ready to really tackle the title itself, which seems to capture the essence of all this. Let's bring it all together. The courage to be disliked. What does that phrase truly mean for living a happy, authentic life, considering everything we've unpacked about our past, our relationships, our tasks, and our place in the community?
Yes, at its heart, the courage to be disliked really synthesizes all these threads we've been discussing into one powerful, liberating, and honestly quite revolutionary message for how to live. It means that genuine freedom and true authenticity, which are presented as the keys to lasting happiness, they come from deliberately choosing not to let the fear of being disliked, or that relentless chase for external validation dictate your actions, your choices, or your fundamental sense of self-worth.
So stop worrying so much about what other people think.
In essence, yes. It's about having the courage to live according to your own principles, your own values, guided by your internal compass. Even when, inevitably, that means facing criticism from some people, or disapproval, or simply not pleasing everyone around you all the time.
Because trying to please everyone is impossible anyway.
It's impossible and it's exhausting.
Right.
The philosophy frames that constant desire for external approval as fundamentally a childish pursuit,
Childish. Why childish?
because it keeps you dependent, like a child seeking validation from parents or authority figures. If you constantly rely on what others think of you to feel okay, you'll always be, as the book puts it, contorting yourself to meet other people's expectations.
Losing yourself in the process.
Exactly. You become a chameleon, constantly shifting your colors to blend in, trying to guess what others want you to be. And in doing that, your authentic self disappears. You lose touch with your own desires, your own voice.
That's a quote about this, isn't there?
Yes, the philosopher character states it very starkly, and it really bears repeating. Not everyone will approve of you, but that is no reason to live according to others' expectations. True freedom lies in having the courage to follow your own path, even if it means being disliked.
Even if it means being disliked. That's the core.
Right.
But it's not about trying to be disliked, right? Not about being deliberately offensive or antagonistic.
Absolutely not. It's not about being a contrarian just for the sake of it, or seeking out conflict or being rude. It's about being genuinely authentic, true to yourself, your values, your needs. It's about aligning your actions with your internal compass, even if that compass sometimes points in a different direction than the crowd, or challenges the status quo, or disappoints someone.
How might this courage manifest in everyday life? What are some practical examples?
Oh, it can be in small things, daily choices. It might be having the courage to politely decline a social invitation you genuinely don't want to attend, instead of going out of obligation or fear of missing out.
Saying no more often.
Saying no to obligations, requests, or expectations that drain you or don't align with your values, even if it might mildly displease someone. It could be expressing an unpopular opinion respectfully but clearly in a meeting or conversation when it genuinely matters to you, rather than staying silent to keep the peace.
Prioritizing your own well-being or principles over universal approval.
Exactly. The underlying idea is that if you're constantly doing things you'd rather not, purely to gain acceptance or avoid disapproval, you simply cannot lead a truly fulfilled life or make a meaningful impact based on your own convictions. You become, in a sense, a slave to others' perceptions.
And having the courage to be disliked frees you from that slavery.
Precisely. Paradoxically, it makes your interpersonal relationships potentially lighter, as the book suggests, because you're no longer carrying that immense, impossible burden of trying to control or manage everyone else's judgments about you. You finally accept that their judgment is their task, not yours. It empowers you to live from the inside out, truly liberating your potential to contribute authentically and to simply be.
That liberation brings us beautifully to the final and maybe the most profound concept we need to touch on, this idea of happiness itself. Not as some far-off goal, but as a choice we make right here in the present moment.
This is crucial.
We hear it all the time, don't we? People postponing happiness. I'll finally be happy when I graduate, when I get that promotion, when I find the right partner, get married, buy the house, when the kids leave home, when I retire.
A when, then, trap.
Exactly. It's such a common tendency to put happiness on layaway, as if life right now is just a dress rehearsal for some grand future performance where happiness will finally begin.
It is incredibly common. And Adler's perspective directly challenges this whole tentative life mindset. It asks a really fundamental question. If you're always living for what's next, when do you actually live?
Good question.
He offers this powerful metaphor. He describes life not as a straight line you walk down from past to future, not a string of moments linked by cause and effect, but more like a series of dots, a series of present moments.
A series of dots, like points in time.
Exactly. He asserts, quite simply, Life is only a series of moments. Each moment, each dot is complete in itself.
So the goal isn't reaching the end of the line.
No. The goal, therefore, isn't to reach some grand objective way off in the distance, as if happiness is a trophy waiting at the finish line after a long, hard race. The real goal, the way to live fully, is to live earnestly in the here and now, to genuinely engage with and appreciate the dance of life itself, the process.
The dance of life, enjoy the process itself.
Yes, because the process is the result. There is no separate destination called happiness that you arrive at later. You don't arrive at happiness. You choose it, you create it, you experience it right here, in each present moment, in each dot.
How does the book phrase that? Something about dancing.
Yes, it says something like, since one is dancing, one does not stay in the same place. But there is no destination. The dance itself is the point, not getting somewhere specific. He calls this kind of living an actual active state life. Always in motion, always complete in the moment.
That directly confronts what he called the greatest life lie, doesn't it?
It does. That lie being the pervasive belief that the present moment is merely a preparatory stage, just a means to an end, a waiting room for some real future happiness or significance.
And the danger of that lie.
The danger is, if your life gets interrupted en route, if illness strikes, if plans change, if you never reach that imagined top of the mountain, then if you've lived by that linear destination-focused thinking, your entire life might feel like a failure, a tentative life that never quite arrived, unfulfilled, because you never reached the imagined endpoint.
Wow. So instead, it's about finding meaning, purpose, joy, fulfillment in the act of living itself, in the journey, moment by moment, regardless of what external achievements might or might not materialize down the line.
That's the essence of it, being fully present, finding your happiness right now, today.
And how do we do that? How is happiness found within?
It's found when you live according to your values, as we discussed, when you embrace genuine self-acceptance, when you feel a sense of contribution to others, however small, and crucially, when you actively discard that exhausting need for external approval and validation, when you have the courage to be disliked.
It all connects back.
It all connects. It encourages you to find meaning and purpose in each present moment, rather than constantly postponing joy until some future milestone that might never come or might not deliver the happiness you expect anyway.
This perspective seems to really emphasize self-compassion too, being kind to yourself in the present.
Immensely so. Choosing happiness daily requires self-compassion. You're not waiting for life to magically get better so you can finally be happy. You're making the conscious choice to live well now, to be happy now within the circumstances you have.
The world is simple, and life is too, if we choose to see it that way.
That's the concluding thought, isn't it? The complexity isn't necessarily out there in the world. It's often in the meanings we assign, the goals we unconsciously pursue, the life lies we tell ourselves, the vertical relationships we maintain. Once we choose to change our internal world, embrace courage, focus on contribution, live in the here and now, life itself can feel much simpler and happiness becomes accessible.
That's a truly powerful thought to end on, a challenge really, and maybe the most important choice any of us can make right here, right now. So, let me leave you with this question to ponder, building on everything we've explored. If the world is simple and life is too, as these ideas suggest, what meaning are you choosing to give to your life right here, right now, that will truly set you free? Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the courageous ideas sparked by the courage to be disliked. This was it on today's book, guys. Kindly subscribe and follow us for more such insights on various books, and also do not forget to join our social media community to stay in touch and get happy.